and never take any funding from a potential sales tax increase. This bill just clearly says if they do, they must cease the other taxing ability.
Thank you.
Other questions from the committee members? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to testify? I have several here. I have Ms. Barbara Haselden.
Good morning. My name is Barbara Haselden, and I'm from St. Petersburg. And thank you for allowing me this time. HB 865 is a chameleon. On a bed of grass, a chameleon's skin turns green, but on the earth it becomes brown. And I can tell you that up here in Tallahassee, HB 865 looks like a very simple bill to protect taxpayers. However, in Pinellas County, against an entirely different backdrop, it becomes something else far more complex. I have attended every meeting for the last year and a half that has to do with transit in Pinellas County. And it's not just PSTA, but the alternative analysis, all of the different NGOs, the Transportation Task Force. And so I speak from total experience of going to all these meetings. PSTA was an insolvent bus system in 2010 with losses of $2 million, $6 million, and $8 million projected for years 2011, 12, and 13. A millage increase of 30% was passed last fall to slow down the free fall, and that purchased, ladies and gentlemen, a 3-year reprieve. But it still is heading for bankruptcy without a new funding source or serious budget cuts within this time frame. During this critical time, an NGO, the Transportation Task Force, was formed in June 2010 by Commissioner Karen Seal, a strong light rail advocate in Pinellas County, and she handpicked 25 like-minded individuals consisting of 5 elected officials and 20 big business executives in Pinellas County. So it's 80% unelected. After a few meetings over the summer, this 80% unelected group decided we needed to solve our transportation challenges with a new $2 billion light rail system and a bus bailout to be funded by a 1% transportation surtax. At the same time, and with the same problem, Hillsborough had placed a 1% transit referendum on their ballot for November 2010. It failed by nearly 60%. Thus, the tax swap idea was born by Pinellas County out of this defeat, not to protect the taxpayers, but to persuade them to pass a huge tax increase on themselves, quadrupling the transit revenue with the promise of tax relief. The Pinellas bus system, as I said, is a bankrupt, insolvent situation over time. On January 30th, just a month ago, PSTA voted to go forward with constructing a $2 billion, 24-mile light rail system. Only the government would attempt to save a failing system by massive expansion. For starters, they need an additional 1%. HB 865 will make it easier to convince voters to pass a 1% sales tax. HB 865 will enable rail advocates to falsely sell this tax increase as a tax swap. This is no swap. This is a calculated move to impose a $100 million tax increase and to take that money out of our local economy. The current Pinellas Transit ad valorem tax is $32 million. A 1% transit sales tax, which they have agreed that it is 1% that they need, would generate $130 million. It is not revenue neutral, ladies and gentlemen. It's the amount needed for light rail and a bus bailout in Pinellas County. Hillsborough, after this defeat, cut services, raised fares, laid off staff, and balanced their budget. It is disingenuous to call this a swap when it sets into motion a 1% sales surtax and removes $100 million. What you are voting for this morning is light rail in Pinellas County. This is all about qualifying for federal rail seed money that will prove to be an economic drag in perpetuity because, like Hotel California, once you check in, you cannot check out.
Representative Costello.
As I understand it, the voters voted down the sales tax. Are you saying that Tallahassee should dictate what happens locally rather than let the voters decide what happens locally?
I think that you should not grease the skids.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask it again?
Follow up.
I'm sorry.
Are you saying you would rather have Tallahassee dictate what happens locally rather than the local voters determine what happens?
I think this is a home rule situation and that the people should be able to vote up or down on a 1% sales
you.
tax increase.
Mr. Chairman?
Representative Cassell, follow.
So my question, because you believe this should be a home rule issue, you think it would be better? Do you think it would be better if we did nothing and let the local voters decide to have a sales tax and keep the property tax?
I think that this should be a revenue neutral
That wasn't my question.
situation.
Thank you. Did I miss him? Okay. Thank you. Our next speaker will be Mr. Pete Franco.
Mr. Speaker and Board, thank you for having me, give me the opportunity to speak. First, much of what you just heard from Barb, I would stand behind and agree with. And basically, I'm clear that this can be looked at as a local Pinellas bill. Most of you are not from Pinellas, and I understand that it could have the appearance of being looked at as a local bill. And I believe that the endpoint repercussions of this, as just stated, would not have this end up being a local bill. And actually, to the question I think that Representative Costello just asked, I would request that you withdraw the bill completely and not even look at it. But to address why I'm coming up here to talk to you, this is about light rail. I've been to the transportation meetings also. Okay, funding. There was a decision made by the Transportation Board to get light rail, and this is basically the preparation for that. So voting for this will be, and it's not a revenue neutral bill. Okay, it's going to generate quite a bit more, and so why would you want to spend something more when the ridership actually isn't even there for the buses right now? So you're going to triple a spending program that isn't even going to bail out the buses and is going to basically just make more spending. So I guess the gap bridging would have to be that you understand that by going to the transportation meetings, I'm clear that this is a prep bill for rail, and it's in synchronization with some other bills. There's other regional taxing that's being looked at. It's not a separate thing just for the. And I agree also that consumption is a better way to go, but not if it's piecemealed. The end product of this will be a higher spending tax drain. I appreciate you allowing me to speak. With regard to vetting at our level, I don't believe it was vetted clearly, and that's my personal view, so that's just subjective. There also may be a question as to whether this was procedurally put up in enough time. I don't know if that's a point or not. It may be. My request is that you actually withdraw this bill and do nothing with it. Thank you for giving me the time to speak.